Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Twisted Timbers. This project is going to be a shorter project than my other ones that I have going on right now, and it's going to be what's called a design. And when I say a design, that means it has the coaster, the surroundings, and nothing else, not the full-blown park or anything like that. And yeah, so this coaster that I'm building right now is, like I just said, Twisted Timbers. And Mystic Timbers is just, it's big sister from a park called King's Island instead of King's Dominion, where Hurler, which is now going to be called Twisted Timbers, used to reside in. This coaster is going to be a hybrid coaster, and it's going to hopefully be the exact same layout. There's going to be a few, very, very, very slight changes, just because you can't get all the little nuances like you can from the POV that was released a couple days ago previously from this recording. This coaster is going to have 3 inversions. It's going to have an overbank turn, and then what's called, I have no clue what it's called, but it's like this half corkscrew. It's 2 half corkscrews, but the second half is facing the opposite direction. I know there's a term for it. I think it's like a switchback or something like that. But there's also one from the late coaster called Drakenfire, which was at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. And it's kind of similar to that, only probably a lot smoother because it's an RMC. And as far as the other inversions on this coaster, the first one I'm making here is the first drop, and it is in a diving barrel roll. And it gives a lot of airtime because it's a little slower moving than the other inversions are. And it gives a lot of hang time before it dives down into the actual drop. Next, we have a overbank turn in the layout. It's going to be around, I think, 50... No, whoa, that's not overbanked. Probably around 95 to 100 degrees overbanked. So it's not going to be too far, but it's going to still be overbanked to some degree. As I said before, this coaster was originally Hurler, which was a wooden coaster at King's Dominion, and I forget what year it opened, but it was not that well received. It came with its fair share of roughness, and it was a very poor layout, to be honest. There was not too much going on with it. It was very low to the ground, not a lot of speed, but it felt like there was a lot of speed just because of how low to the ground it was. It had a lot of turns near to the ground as well, and that was probably the only thing it had going for it. When it was open with Paramount, before Cedar Fair took the park over, it had a Wayne's World theme, which Wayne's World, the TV show, or not TV show, the SNL skit turned movie, that whole thing. Once the park was bought over by Cedar Fair, the coaster kind of just sat dormant without its Wayne's World theming. Nothing really went on back there. There was Windseeker, but that was a little bit not off the beaten path, but a little closer to the main midway rather than that area that Hurler sat in. The only other coaster in that vicinity is their Wild Mouse coaster called Ricochet, and again, that wasn't a very popular ride, so the area didn't see much interest in the guests, and it didn't really see much interest in Cedar Fair to renovate it until now. And yeah, so now we're getting into a few camelbacks. There's 2 in this coaster. There's also a lot of these weird little transitions where it kind of curves to line up with the next element of the coaster. And like I said, 2 camelbacks, and after that there's another overbank turn. Actually, after that is the switchback that I was talking about, where it goes upside down. And this little section of the video is going to take a while, just because I had a hard time kind of situating where the track was going to be and how the length of the design itself was in comparison to the real life model that I was basing it off of, which was the POV. And as you can see, this is a really weird little inversion here. You have the first half of this corkscrew that is pretty normal and similar to others, and then you have the switchback part of it, which goes right back in the other direction. This used to be the first turnaround, actually the second turnaround, I guess. Going back towards the station, it went in like this oval circular pattern, went up the lift, and then it went towards the station, then out, and back again. And this is that first out and back that I'm talking about. Now we are at some of these bunny hops, which are really cool. Gives a lot of airtime, ejector airtime at that, not floater. And the difference between floater and ejector is when you have a very small hill that takes a longer time to crest over the hill than something like this. You see that it's a lot sharper of a ascent to descent, which gives you the ejector airtime instead of the floater. But yeah, after this section here with the bunny hills, there's going to be one last little hill, and then the turnaround that's going to go into the second part of the out and back section here. The next inversion, which I haven't talked about at all, I didn't even mention it when I was talking about the inversions, is a barrel roll, and I'm going to use the heartline function for that to make it a little bit more realistic. It might not be as smooth as you would want it, but it'll still serve the purpose, and it'll still be fine once you go through it. Fine enough to where it's not going to be too bothersome. But yeah, this little area gave me a little bit of trouble just because of the length from the top of the lift hill to the switchback. There's, for some reason, I think I fixed it, but the bunny hills that are right next to where I'm building right now kind of were a little too short. They weren't long enough, which meant I didn't have as much room to work with. See, I'm trying to adjust things, but that's not going to work. So I think I ended up rebuilding this section. I don't know if I cut that out from here or not, but we'll see. Yeah, but since we have some time to kill while this is being built right now, I'll go into how this coaster is going to look in its final stage. I'm going to make it a full recreation, or more like a prediction of what the area is going to look like, because no one's sure what it's going to look like. There are renderings that I'll use to my advantage, but for the most part, it's going to be kind of a prediction. The station is actually pretty set in stone. I remember the old sound stage looking building that it used to be, but it looks like they painted it red, added some moss kind of things to make it look old, because there's like I said earlier, a sister coaster that is a part of Kings Island called Mystic Timbers, which has a similar theme, and it has, since it has a similar theme, it also has similar theming, and that's what I think is going to be implemented into this version of the coaster in real life. So as we're getting closer to the end of this layout, we're finally getting to the last inversion, which is that barrel roll that I was talking about earlier. And to do this, what we're going to do is eventually, once it gets done and built correctly, I'm going to put each piece at a 45-degree increment, so it has equal amount of time or equal amount of track to get upside down and to get back right side up. However, I didn't really end up building it that way. I had to shorten the whole entire thing a little bit just because it was too tall. Not because I couldn't make the track, but just because in the actual coaster, this barrel roll is a lot lower to the ground, which is another thing that RMC likes to do with some of their inversions, is have them low to the ground, especially in the later half of their layouts. So now that this last inversion is built and ready to go, I'm gonna work on the final turnaround, and this final turnaround kind of has this weird up and down, but it's a very steep bank, almost 90-degree banked, and it has a really really cool looking. I've never been on an RMC, so I can't really say, but it looks like it would feel really cool. A lot of nice little moments of airtime / G-forces mixed in there, both lateral and vertical. And this is really the last little problem area, the last little brain fart I had, because I have to go back under the track to get to the other side so I can get to the proper area of the brake run. And I mean, it's a simple fix. All I have to do is adjust the radius of the final turn, but for some reason I just, I couldn't really figure it out at first. But then there's a few more bunny hops, and yeah, that's pretty much it. There's nothing else to it after that. I'm gonna build the brake run here first so that I have something to build to rather than building towards the station. That's usually a general rule of thumb that I have with all of my coasters, as I build the brake run away from the station rather to the station, just because it's a lot easier. Unless there's some kind of weird after brake run turn that happens, but that's really rare. Usually it just leads straight into the brake run for me. But yeah, anyways guys, this is gonna be it for this episode, just the layout, and I will leave you guys with a few nice little cinematics before the video ends, and I will see you next time. Peace guys.